Hey you guys, what up? It is Agent What If back with another video. And this one, you see the title, What If Deku was the son of Hawks and Dabi? So I'm gonna do some setup for the story, of course, and yeah, we'll get into it then. So in this story, Dabi or Toya is actually not Todoroki's brother. He's actually Todoroki's cousin. I'm doing it for reasons because I feel like it'd be weird if if Deku was Todoroki's nephew, like, and they're the same age, it just feel weird. So Toya is Todoroki's cousin. Also in this one, Hawks is a girl. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Anyway, we start our story off with Toya arriving at the massive house of his uncle, and Endeavor meets him at the front gate and tells him that he is welcome here. Toya or Dabi accepts and walks through. He sees his cousins, a lot of whom don't look particularly happy, but immediately look surprised and kind of look better once they see him. Todoroki is one of those people, so yeah. Actually, no, Todoroki isn't born yet. I forgot. Sorry. Yeah. Toya is there. A little while after, about a year later, that's when Endeavor finds out that there's a prodigy that the heroes have been recently training. And he also finds out that this prodigy has a very deep respect for Endeavor as a hero. And Endeavor decides that he could use this. So Endeavor goes over to Hawks and asks her if she would like to be his protege. Hawks, being a complete fangirl for Endeavor and wanting to be a hero, accepts this offer from the number 2 hero. Endeavor says, then you will come to live with me so that you can be trained with my children and my nephew, or with my family. Yeah, just say with my family, and I can teach you every day. Hawks agrees to this because Hawks hasn't had the best life thus far, so yeah. A little time passes. One day, a completely ordinary day, the house immediately erupts and breaks up into fire. Like, just goes up in flames. The Todorokis immediately rush out, and the children, along with Hawks, just see that Toya and Endeavor are arguing, and they're fighting currently. Endeavor is asking Toya why he would do this, and Toya is saying because of the fact that he doesn't love him. Endeavor, thinking about this, thinks he's just pouting, and he goes to fight him. The whole house is currently engulfed in flame. Like, the house is burning down. The fire department is on the way down the street, and Hawks decides to intervene. She tries to get in the middle of them and tries to stop them, but then that's when Dabi sees Hawks and tells her to move. Hawks says she will not because they cannot be fighting here, especially since the children are around. Then that's when Dabi says this doesn't have anything to do with you, and you're not in it, so just leave me alone. And Dabi runs around her because they're both currently in the air, and he goes for Endeavor, shooting fire randomly, and one of the fireballs that he shot almost hits his cousins. This wakes Dabi up to the reality that he could have just killed someone. This kind of intimidates Dabi, and Dabi decides to live for another day and disappears. Shortly after that, Dabi is invited to be a part of the League of Villains. Dabi accepts because at this moment he is alone and he can't defeat all the heroes by himself. So yeah. Dabi is given an initiation, but the thing about the initiation is that he has to actually prove that he is on their side, so he has to kill someone. Dabi immediately knows who that will be and decides it'll be Endeavor. The villains then say, whoa, calm down, kid. You want to kill the number 2 hero? And then he says, don't worry about it, I have it. And they say, okay, and they let Dabi off. They say that you have 2 days to kill the hero, to kill the number 2 hero, or, we'll kill you. Because we can't let anyone find out about our base, so we'll just have to kill you. And Dabi says, okay. And he stalks the mansion that he used to live at and waits for Endeavor to be alone. That's when he ambushes Endeavor. Endeavor responds with an attack with a fireball straight to the face, which actually hits Toya, which knocks him over completely. Toya gets back up, only to see that Endeavor's looking down at him. And Endeavor says, Toya, so you finally come crawling back? Toya then says that I'm not crawling back to you because I don't respect you and you deserve to die. And immediately lifts his hand and starts pushing fire out of his hands, almost hitting Endeavor. Endeavor dodges and breaks his arm and kicks him on the chin into the wall and picks him up by the throat and says, you're just another angry child, an irresponsible infant with power that you can't even understand. And then that's when Toya says, but I do understand, and grabs Endeavor on the head and actually starts to burn his hair because his fire is blue. And he gets Endeavor to leave him, to get off of him. But that's when we find out that Endeavor was actually training Hawks to one day, find, to recover Dabi, or Toya as he's being called right now. And Hawks, seeing this, intervenes, and she tells Dabi to stop. Dabi is not interested in talking to her and flies over her, trying to attack Endeavor more. Endeavor gets impatient and starts throwing his own attacks, absolutely beating Dabi down and just pounding him on the ground. That's when Hawks goes over to Endeavor and asks him to stop. Endeavor says, fine, will you try harder with your training? And that's when Hawks says yes, and Endeavor leaves him alone. Endeavor begins to go back to the training area and says, I've had enough of this child. That's when Hawks asks Toya if he's okay, and Hawks gets a slap on her hand, signaling that Dabi has no interest in actually, talking to her. She responds by slapping him in the face and telling him that he's being really irresponsible in fighting his father and that he can't win, and also where has he been. Dabi answers none of these questions and gets another slap. Dabi has grown tired of this and begins to try to make his escape when he is actually held down by Hawks, and she begins to start asking him where he's gone and how is he gonna leave. Again, he begins to raise his one working arm and starts shooting fire out of his arm, and Hawks dodges and says, you're going to attack me, really? And she punches him in the face, which breaks his nose, actually, and with the various other injuries he has, knocks him out. He wakes up around a couple hours later at the hospital, being fully recovered from his broken arm. It turns out that he was actually under the influence of the villains after he first left. So once he joined the League of Villains, they had already taken control of him and were using him as a pawn. But when he first left, that actually was him. So yeah, he kind of still hates his father, which is to be expected. Toya, with this anger and knowing that he was taken over by the League of Villains, can't remember anything about the hideout. And because of this, he is deemed to not be needed. So slowly after this, as Hawks recovers, they begin to form a relationship. As Toya recovers, Hawks and Dabi begin to form a relationship over their loss equally and over their anger. Eventually, they get together, and this part of the story for them is not really important, except for I don't know how to say this any better, but they essentially just have a time skip. This is a couple years into the future, and Todoroki has been born. If I said Todoroki was alive before, then no, he's not. He was born a couple years later, but at the same time, Izuku was born. Izuku was the son of Hawks and Dabi. At this point, Dabi has recovered and has been recovered and actually did become a hero, but absolutely loathes his father and cannot stand the very sight of him. Hawks has risen to being a very popular hero, like in canon, but has taken leave because she is about to give birth to Izuku. She gives birth to Izuku, and Izuku is a Todoroki. So yeah, Izuku Todoroki is born. A couple of years later, exactly 4, Endeavor arrives at Dabi and Hawks' door and bangs on the door. Dabi goes downstairs and answers when he sees Endeavor, and his face immediately changes. He says, "What do you want?" And Endeavor says, "Your son." And Dabi says, "Yeah, what about him?" And he says, "I need to see your son's quirk." And Dabi immediately gets angry and says, What makes you think that you have the right to see my son at all? I should kill you now. If I wasn't a hero, I would." And then that's when Endeavor says, "Stop with the theatrics. We both know that you couldn't defeat me even if you tried your best with help. So show me your child. I need to see his quirk." Dabi says, "Absolutely not," and his hand starts lighting on fire, and that's when Endeavor's shoulders fire because he's in his hero costume starts erupting, and that's when Hawks comes downstairs and says, Dabi, chill. He is my master after all, and he is your father. I mean, he's not. He is your uncle." And Dabi, not agreeing to this, says absolutely not. But that's when Izuku comes over to the door and says, "What's going on?" And Dabi says, "Izuku, go back to your room. You don't want to see the sight of this disgusting crustacean." Endeavor said, "This child," thinking he has the right to talk to me like that. And Izuku asks, "What's a crustacean?" And Hawks, breaking up the tension, just says, "Izuku, have you unlocked your quirk yet?" And Izuku says, "What's a quirk?" And he gets explained what a quirk is, and they go outside. Endeavor is not interested. He says, "Okay, so the child clearly hasn't awakened his quirk. Fine, well, this was a waste of time." And Dabi says the exact same thing I was gonna say. "You're the waste of time, though. So don't come back here." Endeavor turns around and says, "I have no use for your anger, child. You can be angry all you like, but unless you're going to act on that anger, I have no interest in you. You are useless to me." Dabi and Endeavor proceed to walk outside and actually do have a sort of scrap that gets broken up by Izuku starts crying and starts rubbing his eyes when he says, "I wish they wouldn't fight." And he yells for them to stop when his wings expand rapidly, made of fire. And Hawks says, so he has a quirk that is literally the combination of me and Dabi's. How interesting." Endeavor immediately goes over to Izuku and says, "Yes, this could be interesting. Very interesting." He has blue flame wings. Izuku is immediately the day after trained because they understand how his powers work. I don't think you would need to go to the quirk doctor in order to get that. I mean, they're wings and they're on fire, so they probably burn stuff and probably allow him to fly. I mean, it's just common sense. So he's trained on how to fly by his mother and trained how to use his fire by his father. We do a short time skip. Well, not a short time skip, but a time skip. And Izuku is now 15. Izuku has known his cousin Todoroki. Actually, wait, would it be his second cousin, I think. His second cousin Todoroki for a really long time. They've basically grew up together, went to the same schools, and even trained together on a couple occasions. Izuku being the child of Hawks and Dabi, has inherited both of their uh, traits. Izuku actually has blonde hair like his mother, with the tips being red. It has a kind of arrogant attitude that sometimes, only in the face of someone he respects, dials down back to a more respectful, silent tone like his father. Todoroki and him have been best friends since they were literally children, so they often have fights, and this was one of those days. Izuku asked if Todoroki had finally finished his homework, and Todoroki said, "Yeah, I'm done." That's when he says, "Alright, come with me, let's go outside." Todoroki says, "Again, Izuku, you always want to fight." And he says, "I want to see where we match up. This will be the last time for now, though." And Todoroki's intrigued by this and says, "What do you mean for now?" And before Izuku could answer, Izuku uses his quirk to fly up into the air and says, "Okay, so now that we're here, how about we start this fight?" Todoroki says, "Whatever. Are there any limitations or anything or any rules?" Izuku says, "Of course not. You know that I don't like rules in fights." And Todoroki says, "Fine, but don't feel sad when I beat you." Izuku says, "Please, it would never happen." Endeavor peers through the window to see that they're testing their power, and he says, yes, Shoto, destroy him." Izuku dive bombs, curling his wings around him in a forward motion, and immediately sinks clean through the earth. Todoroki dodges using his ice to propel himself in a different direction. He can't see Izuku, and Izuku's underground. Todoroki wonders if Izuku messed up and has knocked himself out, and begins to walk away when Izuku bursts through the ground, flying up, expanding his wings, and immediately starts sending projectiles, which are essentially flaming feathers, at Todoroki. Todoroki creates an ice wall, but that is quickly being melted away. Todoroki can't keep up and is being overwhelmed by the sheer amount. Todoroki uses his own fire to try to overpower Izuku's fire, but Izuku fires back a constant beam himself. Todoroki being overwhelmed, Izuku closes the distance, swooping down, and immediately jumps over Todoroki's right hand that he just threw, getting behind him. Izuku does have claws, by the way, so yeah, Izuku starts throwing hands, literally, and Todoroki is on the defensive back foot. Endeavor is currently getting upset. Todoroki goes for a sweep when Izuku jumps up, dodging it, flying behind him, and kicking him in the back. Izuku starts boasting of how Todoroki must have gotten weaker since the last time they fought, because even then it wasn't this easy to beat him. Todoroki gets angry, uses his ice to freeze the ground completely. Izuku starts melting it, but it's too late when he gets kicked in the chest by Todoroki. Todoroki's not letting up though, using his fire to propel him forward, kicks Izuku in the face after Izuku recovered from getting the initial first kick. Todoroki starts wailing on him with massive amounts of body shots, and then ends it with a flaming foot to the face, which sends Izuku turning in the air and falling. Izuku says, with a bloody nose, wiping it away, saying, "I knew you had potential, so don't let me down." Izuku awakens his quirk once again with his claws out and says, "Time to get serious." Izuku's eyes glow with a bright blue, and Izuku swoops down and actually uses his wings to take out Todoroki's footing. After this, Izuku puts his wings away, drops down right next to Todoroki, picks him up and throws him. Todoroki hits the wall and is kind of hurt by this. Izuku immediately goes on the attack, though, not giving him a second to spare, with swipe after swipe after swipe. Izuku does have super strength, by the way, because, come on. Yeah. So, anyway, Izuku is actually going full throttle and is slicing through the walls and trees around him. Todoroki is rolling out of the way, just barely being enough. Izuku starts throwing a wave of attacks from his flaming wings, and Todoroki is on a defensive yet again. Endeavor is constantly getting more aggravated by this fact and is asking why Shoto doesn't just finish him already. Izuku then swoops in using his wings once more, getting in close and actually kicking Todoroki in the jaw, which sends him flying. Izuku lands on both feet, grabbing Todoroki's legs, slamming him back down, and punching him in the face with a constant barrage. Todoroki is being overpowered and in a second will lose consciousness and tries to go for one more final attack and touches Izuku on the shoulder and freezes them both in a massive block of ice. Endeavor has had enough and goes outside and starts melting the ice to try to avoid at least Shoto from getting hypothermia. Izuku begins activating his quirk trying to burn his way out, but it can't do it because he can't actually activate his quirk. Endeavor unfreezing them, seeing that they're both wet and cold, he says, "You two always go too far." Looking with a kind of look to Shoto, which allows Shoto to understand that his father is disappointed in him. Izuku then says, "Woo, that was a fight," and then starts using his wings and starts shaking them around him to dry himself off. That's when Izuku says, "Oh, hello, Endeavor," and then that's when Endeavor says, "Why would you call me just Endeavor? You can call me Shoto." Izuku says, "Oh, okay." And Izuku goes in the house with Endeavor looking at him in a very, very, very menacing way. Izuku goes in the house and Todoroki's standing right beside him. And Todoroki is touched by the soldier by Endeavor and Endeavor says, "Todoroki, or Shoto, why? Why would you do that?" And Shoto says, "What? Why would I do what?" And he says, "Why would you freeze yourself?" And Shoto then just says, "Well, because of the fact that I didn't want him to win, so I had to stop him." And Endeavor says, "See that right there? You should have never had any doubt in your mind that you would lose. There shouldn't be any thoughts that would resemble you losing. You understand me? We do not lose here, so do better." And he takes his hand off of Todoroki and walks through the door, looking back at him with a very angered look. Izuku, after a short bath from all the fighting and, being cold, he actually leaves and uses his wings, waving bye to Todoroki, to fly back to his house. Currently, they are in the middle of the weekend. They meet back at school earlier and on the Monday of the next week. Todoroki and Izuku are both in bandages from bruises they got a day ago. It was on Sunday that they fought. Izuku then walks into class along with Todoroki, and everyone says, "Wow, look at the two Todorokis being friendly finally." Izuku says, "We've always been friends, no kid." The teacher tells everyone to settle down, and he says, "Okay, everyone here has great expectations. I mean, come on, do you all know your parents? So everyone here is going to go to UA, correct?" And he hears everyone say yeah, because everyone wants to go to UA. The two most popular and two most powerful students we do possess here, though, is currently Izuku Todoroki and Shoto Todoroki. You two will be going to UA, I believe, right? And Izuku says yes, and Todoroki kind of quietly says, "Yeah." He says, "Good. So, what will you do over the 10-month waiting period?" Izuku then steps up saying, "I'm just gonna train a whole lot because once I get strong enough, I won't even have to fight people for real. I'll just be able to take them down with less than 50% of my power." The teacher says, "As you should. Being powerful comes with perks." The teacher then looks at Todoroki, and Todoroki just simply says that he's gonna train because he knows UA might be difficult. The teacher is kind of not satisfied with this answer, considering that this is a pretty prestigious school and just getting in here was hard enough. So he kind of makes him think, like, why does Todoroki not have any confidence in himself? Or Shoto not have any confidence in himself? Anyway, after this, they begin their 10 months training. Every day, they meet Todoroki and Izuku to train. Izuku's power has grown immensely since the start of the 10 months. Thus far, Izuku can use his quirk for around a couple hours, at most 5 hours. At minimum, Izuku just doesn't use his quirk at all, because he does have super strength, which comes with super durability, and claws that are pretty sharp, so he's pretty deadly just in general. And also can use pyrokinesis that is generated from his feathers. He can control each individual feather and send them out as fire, but they're incredibly sharp and super hot, so they're deadly. But he can also just use normal blasts of fire from either his wings or his hands, or both at the same time. So as you can see, they're pretty powerful. Izuku actually doesn't have the one major problem that most fire users have, that using their quirk a lot actually makes their body's heat temperature rise and, exhausts all the oxygen in their body, which makes them tire out really fast. Izuku's wings actually, in between each individual feather, allow air to pass through. You might be thinking, well, aren't Izuku's wings made of fire, so how does that actually work? Well, Izuku's wings they actually manifest on his back and aren't always there. Only when he activates his quirk do they actually appear. So since they're on the outside of his body and are only slightly attached to his back when he wants them to be, they emit their heat outward into the sky instead of directly inside of his body. So it's quite easy for him to avoid getting extraordinarily steamed out. Todoroki has made considerable progress, but Todoroki asks Izuku if he can teach him how to make his fire's intensity grow. Todoroki is interested in it, but Izuku tells him that he's always had blue flames, but every time his father explains to him how to use his firepower more efficiently, he says to concentrate it, because fire, just like almost everything else, can be concentrated, and if it's a smaller beam, it'll probably have a higher impact when it finally does hit, because it takes more energy. So if you focus all of your energy into just one point, it'll be more effective. Todoroki says he's tried this, but it still hasn't worked. Izuku then tells him, well, did you focus on multiple places? And Todoroki then says, well, you just said focus on one. Izuku then says focusing on multiple places might help you because of the fact that, well, you might have more power than you think you have. If you have too much, then putting it in just one area might be too hard. Like corralling all of the energy that you have in just one spot might be difficult if you have large amounts of it. So taking a whole lot of energy into two different points, or even just into all of your fingers, separating it would make it a lot easier. Actually, Todoroki takes this to heart and implements this using his fingers instead of just his hands, and is actually able to sort of unlock blue fire, which is hotter. Izuku, after this, with a smile, says, okay, but that's it. See you tomorrow at the exam. Todoroki says okay and goes to his house, and Izuku flies to his. The next day, they meet up at the entrance exam for UA. Izuku fist bumps Todoroki, and Todoroki says, Alright, are we gonna win? And Izuku then says, we are not gonna win. I'm gonna get first place, and you're gonna place wherever you place. Todoroki then says, wow, as cocky and brash as ever, huh? Izuku says, have I ever been any other way? President Mike tells everyone to quiet down and stop talking as he gives the instructions, and then says, go. At the very beginning, Izuku rises off the ground, flying in front very fast, which actually blows away, just from wind pressure, blows everyone around him to his left and right into buildings, except for Todoroki, who was prepared for this. Izuku starts immediately flying down the middle of the street, and his wings start melting through every single robot that they come in contact with. Izuku flies up again, and then starts shooting his fire-enhanced feathers at every single one he can see. And he starts doing a scatter shot kind of motion, spinning in the air, and his feathers are shooting out in every direction. It's kind of destroying the buildings and also almost hitting the UA students. when he gets a call on the intercom telling him to calm down before he gets in trouble. This was actually his mother, who is currently there and on duty. Izuku then says okay and stops. Having accumulated quite a bit of points, Izuku allows everyone else to do their thing while he sits on top of a building. Izuku, watching, says, wow, they're not very impressive. This is kind of underwhelming. And Izuku gets bored, shrugs his shoulders, and starts to lay back. When the heroes realize that Izuku is doing this, they begin to wonder if he's taking this seriously. So they decide to release the 0 point earlier than normal. The 0 point release is shaking, and Izuku is abruptly woken up out of his... Well, he wasn't sleeping, but he had taken out of his resting position. Izuku wakes up to see a ginormous robot and says, wow, you have money to just throw around like that? Impressive, but not impressive enough. I'm gonna destroy that thing. And Izuku lets himself fall for a little bit, then activates his wings right before he hits the ground, falling down slowly. Izuku tells everyone to move out of his way because he's going to destroy that robot. And everyone, including Ida, well, mostly Ida, tells him, are you crazy? The thing's just ginormous and it doesn't even give you points, so why are you trying to fight it? Izuku says, because it'll probably be fun. Ida says, I don't even understand that. I'm just gonna go. Todoroki then says, so, you're going to fight it? And Izuku then says, yeah. Todoroki says, okay, just don't get killed or anything. It'd be so much more boring with everyone here that I don't know. And Izuku says, thanks for the vote of confidence, I guess, and moves forward. Izuku then jumps, spinning and using his wings to fly into the air. Izuku first tries to chop it up with his wings and brushing them against the robot, but it does absolutely nothing. This robot is actually fire resistant, which is actually a result of his mother telling them that they should be more careful because of the fact that Izuku is incredibly strong and that they really want to push him to keep him interested and entertained in the school. So Izuku decides that after he realizes that it's pretty durable to fire, Izuku turns up the heat and starts immediately emitting a massive blast of blue fire down onto the robot, pushing it backwards. Everyone is shocked that he just has the sheer output of fire. Izuku then says, not enough, and intenses it even more. And it's still not enough, and the robot actually starts fighting back against him. Izuku starts trying more and more, but it's still not working. The robot is this close to him and actually grabs him, throws him into a building, and then continues moving. Izuku is angered by this, and his eyes glow blue and says, you're going to ignore me? Of course, you're not. You're dead. And immediately flies towards the robot, touching it on the back, and then just starts absolutely beaming fire everywhere, all across it. It's still not working. Izuku flies back and takes a deep breath and says, fine, full power then. Izuku pulls out both his hands, extends his wings, and they absolutely grow to ginormous lengths, casting a ginormous shadow across almost the entirety of the UA students. Izuku says, die. And before he can even launch the fire from his wings, the robot immediately shuts down and explodes. Everyone in the UA observation booth are immediately terrified because they don't want him to destroy any students or anything else because this place was expensive. Izuku says, I'd never get to use full power. What a shame. And Izuku's wings grow to a smaller size, and he immediately retracts them and falls down to the ground, but uses his wings again to save him from the impact. Everyone walks up to him and says, what was that attack? And Izuku says, it was nothing special. And they say, nothing special? It almost covered the entire robot. How is that nothing special? Izuku says, it's pretty average for me. And that's when All Might steps out along with Endeavor and his mother and says, young Todoroki, or Izuku, he just calls him Izuku, what are you doing? That attack could have destroyed everyone around you. Izuku said, of course not. I'm sure that Todoroki would have blocked the attack, blocked everyone from the attack if it missed, but it wouldn't have, because I was going to aim specifically for the robot. And All Might says, but how can you be sure? Izuku says, I don't have just fire projection. I have pyrokinesis, which means I can control each and every individual blast of fire that I shoot. So it wouldn't have actually gone astray because I control them, and that's why they go in the direction I want them to, and why I never miss. All Might is actually kind of stunned because he didn't know that. He thought he just had fire projection. Izuku says, yeah, kinda need to know all the facts before you make assumptions, and walks past. His mother congratulates him on entering the school, and Izuku says, I got in, and she says, of course you did. Endeavor looking at him again, saying, Izuku, and Izuku then reciprocates by saying, Shoto, and walks past him. That's when Todoroki approaches, saying hi to his father and looking at All Might, and also seeing his cousin's wife and his best friend's mother, who are the same person. But yeah, he gets a disingenuous and actually kind of hurtful look from his father, and it says, you would have blocked his attack if we shot it, and you would have blocked the other students. Todoroki, you continue to disappoint me, and walks off. That's when Hawks just says, hey, don't take it too seriously. Your father's a terrible human being, so don't take it personally. He's like that to everybody. I'm sure he's just mad because he's not as half as good as hero as you are. Todoroki kind of smiles. All Might being shocked at what she just said and what Endeavor just said, he kind of just says, yeah, what she said, but also remember, fulfill your full potential and become a good hero. Young Todoroki and laughs and walking away with an awkward laugh. And I think that's where I'm gonna end this one. So yeah, what do you guys think of this new series? I think it's gonna be a banger. I hope you guys think so too. But don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, we are very close to our 400 subscriber goal at this time in this video. I'm pretty sure it's 342 right now. So yeah, make sure to hit that subscribe button and a like button. But leave comments too. And also, yeah. So peace.